just want to introduce myself first before we start. My name is Sodiq Lawal. I'm one of the elected student union officer, and also we have different student networking officer here as well. So I would like also to introduce ourselves and to say what we talk about what we do. So I'll start from you.
Okay, my name is Mariana. I'm the Associate Director for Student Registry. Nice to meet you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra. I'm currently in the second year of Master of Architecture and I'm School Network Officer.
Hi, I'm Leslie Morrison. I'm Head of Accommodation Services.
I'm Kyle Cyril. I'm a School Network Officer for the School of Education.
Hello everyone, I'm Rachel Ashton. I'm Executive Director of Student Academic Services.
I'm Mark Crittenden. I'm the Associate Director of Student Centres and Engagement.
I'm Devon Chair. I'm the School Networking Officer for the high school.
Sorry, I don't know if the online people can hear us. Can you just signify? So can you do some introduction of yourself as well?
Well, I'm happy to go first. Hi everyone, sorry I can't be there in person. My name is Giannina Harvey-Bruin and I'm the Associate Director for Employability and Apprenticeship.
I mean, you're the next.
Hi everyone, I'm Amil Fahadwal, the Elected Student Union Officer, and I'll be joining in person very soon. I'm next to the office, but I have some work to get it done and I'll join. But until then I'm online as well. Thank you.
Yeah, Munaza, do you want to go next? So you're on mute, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Hi, good afternoon to everyone.
Yeah.
It's Luzma Tariq speaking, and I'm working as Student Network Officer. I didn't attend the session in Greenwich because I don't know I have a session today in Greenwich, so that's why I attended online. Thank you.
Ria, please, do you want to go next? Yeah, Kate, you can go for it. Thank you.
Hi, was that over to me?
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I've literally just joined the call. I noticed in the chat that you said you were starting at 10 past, so that worked out pretty well. Are we doing introductions?
Yeah.
Hi, yes, I'm Katie Jenkins. I'm Senior International Student Advisor. I lead the International Student Advice Service and we provide immigration advice confidentially, free of charge to our international students.
Thank you. Ria, please, you want to introduce yourself as well? Ria, can you hear us? While we are waiting for Ria to respond, so I think we'll move to everyone. Just join us. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. I'm MD Rizwanullah Chaudhry. I'm the School Network Officer for Law and Criminal.
Thank you everyone. Today's discussion is going to be recorded because of students as well. We have the opportunity to watch it after. And yeah. So the next one now is going to be a question from the student officer, which is Rasmit Soki. But unfortunately,
Hello, can we just finish introductions? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm the Associate Director of Campus Operations and Services. We look after all the campuses and all the accommodation.
thank you and welcome to very much. So the first question of the day is going to be coming from Rashmit Soki, but unfortunately he's absent, he's not here today. So I'll be the one to ask the question on behalf of him. So the question goes to availability.
On screen.
Okay, yeah. So the question goes to Kate, which is what work is being done to improve the opportunities for part-time work, placement, and internship with top companies?
Sure. So the short answer is we're doing lots of net activity, and I've got a little list of some of the things that we've got going on at the moment. So with part-time work, as of last year, we launched our part-time job fair, which is a campus-wide termly events where we bring in local businesses that are local to the Greenwich campus and the Medway campus. So each term, students have an opportunity to connect with around 30 or 40 employers at each event to find out about live part-time jobs in both of those areas. We're also looking at the collaboration with an organisation called Writerbox, who are UK leaders in connecting students and graduates with startup, creative and tech companies as well, and they specialise in part-time working. So that's part-time jobs. For internships and placements, we have quite a suite of activity as well. So we have our ongoing support for students who are left to do a sandwich mode placement, both with sourced placements and also supporting students who self-source those placements with organisations. We also have a number of funded internships that usually take place in the summer, and we currently have funding to award at least 10 to 12 of those each year. These internships are sourced by my placement team and are exclusive to Greenwich students, so we're able to manage the process end-to-end and support them with that. We're also exploring opportunities to do part-time placements for students who don't want to do a full sandwich year but may want that longer, more meaningful work experience. So rather than taking a year out of their study, they can do it 1 or 2 days a week to complement their study and their degree. We have a range of module placements going on around, depending on which subjects you do. Most departments have a range of module placements that you can do as part of your study. So these usually take place over a half term or a term, connecting you with an employer or employers. And we have a suite of virtual internships that we deliver in partnership with Forage, which is our platform for virtual internships. So there are a range of employers who have designed challenges and projects that students can complete virtually and get certification for. And then as of last year, we launched our Insights and Discovery Days programs, which are where we take groups of students to actually visit employers in their offices. They have an afternoon, almost like an insight day. They do a challenge, they do a task, and they get to network with employers in their business. And last year we were able to host discovery days at organisations like Google. We have one at Brown's Hotel. We do a lot of work with Intercontinental, that group as well, and we're looking at expanding that programme for future years as well. So there's a range of things that we're doing around internships, placements and part-time work for students. But happy to take any questions on any of that.
Thank you for that. Is there any school networking officer that want to ask questions or something regarding that?
Yes. Hi. I wanted to ask a question regarding collaboration with law firms. As we are law students and it's quite difficult to get internships like vacation schemes, and many law firms are introducing new...
Sorry, there's quite a bit of echo. I just wonder if I could be, if you could be brought a bit closer to the microphone. Is that okay? Sorry.
Go for it, ma'am.
So I was saying that in regards to internship opportunities for law students, nowadays law firms are introducing more opportunities for non-Russell Group University students. For example, Bremen University probably have a partnership with McFarland. And I wanted to request and also suggest on behalf of my classmates that if possible, whether the university can collaborate with city law firms for work experience opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm aware of the McFarland collaboration, and I also worked with another university that had a similar arrangement with Baker McKenzie. What my team at the moment are looking at is actually a step beyond that, and we're looking to partner with an organisation like Legal Cheek, which will give you a wider range of firms that you have access to. We always try to be agnostic in our approach of supporting students to specific organisations. So we are exploring opportunities to partner with 1 or 2 law firms, but I think what's more likely is that we partner with an organisation like Legal Cheek, which will give you a bigger range of firms that you can then get internships and placements from.
That's great. Thank you very much.
What year did you say you were in?
Year 2.
Year 2. What's the timeline for that, Giannina, do you think?
I would I would hope that this is something that we can launch next summer. We're talking to Legal Chief right now about it, but because of when the internships are recruited, they usually go out to advert any time between January and April. The opportunities wouldn't be available until next summer for those students.
Amazing. Thank you.
Sorry, is there any follow-up questions, please?
Yes, I've got a question, if that's all right. So my question is mostly on what's the spread with the partnership and placement opportunities offered to students across all faculties of the university? How is the selection made, essentially? Because I'll take, for example, in engineering and science as faculty, there's a lot of placement and internship opportunities for civil engineering students, but not as much, not nearly as much for, say, chemical engineering students. So that disparity in the numbers, what is the reason, and what is your team working on to sort of reduce and equalize that?
Yeah, it's not an exact science, but it is something that my team works quite hard to do. I think there's a balance between trying to provide enough opportunities for all students and also being representative of the market. Some of the chemical engineering opportunities are rarer because of where the businesses are located, for example. So sometimes it's a little bit harder. Sometimes we have supported students with expenses where they have to travel and sometimes even stay for those opportunities, but because they're not always in the geographical area we would like, sometimes they're a bit harder to source. I think across the university you would find a range of opportunities for some of those reasons. There are, for example, a lot more business and administration internships than there are psychology internships, so it's never going to be an even number across all subjects, but we do what we can to try and source according to what the market allows us to do and what businesses are available and that would like to work with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically I wanted to ask about what support is available for the students that are on the creative courses and they're usually required to pay for printing, for models, for materials for the workshop. And just to give some examples from the information I gathered from students, it's both printing for tutorials for every week in small formats that might seem not like a lot of money, but also printing for submissions that are usually in big formats like A1s. So from what I asked different people, they usually pay something between 200 to over 1K per year. Yeah, which is quite a lot, and I think also might create some like inequality because some people definitely like come from different backgrounds and they cannot afford it, especially when it's as much as like one more friend. Yeah, so just wanted to ask what support will be available for the students.
So I've spoken to the faculty specifically about them because can you remind me what program you're on?
Architecture.
Oh, you're on, yes. So the answer from the faculty around this is that they're not hidden, that they are, that they advertise all the costs. So they've given me the link in terms of the website that says what the additional costs are. So they're quite upfront, and then he's also, and I can share this with you, giving us the booklet that sort of identifies the costs. I suppose the thing around is just the general support around hardship funding, or speaking to our student finance to see if there's any additional support you would need or any student would need. I think it's probably, I hadn't quite realised that you were going to say there were that amounts. So I think it's probably worth us sort of taking that back to, is it mainly printing? If I can sort of get a handle of the exact issue, then I'm happy to discuss that.
Yeah, so I think this huge cost is generated from the fact that people go to external places to print.
Okay.
Especially like in my year currently, I'm quite familiar with this because we have to print our final thesis, which were required to like be submitted in a nice book. And I think I know only a few people that like did the binding by themselves, but most of the people like actually went to like external places around London, like everywhere, and depending on like amount of time they had to the deadline, Like I know some people printed like day before, so obviously they have to pay like a lot of money. And another thing is workshop, because obviously we have like laser cutting and 3D printing, and I think this, basically some things can be recycled. So when you go to workshop, they tell you like we have these materials that are like left over from someone else doing their model. So sometimes you can reuse them, and it's quite good. But when it comes to like 3D printing, not many things can be reused. So the workshop is a huge cost as well. Like I know people paying like over 1K for material for workshop, which is like a huge cost. But at the same time, everyone wants to use this like things in 3D printing or laser cutting, because it's new technologies and we're here to use them. So I think it's also why the huge cost is generated. I think it's possible to not pay as much, but at the same time, you just won't do certain things. So and I think maybe another thing could be that the submission could be more paperless, basically. Because I know some tutors agreed to like not submit anything physical, like no portfolio, no big format, which is great. And but some still like require basically very, very various things. It depends like on the tutor, but like some definitely require you to print a lot. So
I'm sure, I don't know if it's still the case, but it used to be that the print room down at Midway actually did print for students at a lower cost, but I don't know if that's been taken away or not. But that always was traditionally a route that students could go and print dissertations. The band did the binding for them, but I'm not sure if that's available or not. And also the relationship we've got with the print room at Stockport Street also, there should be cheaper prices there, but we see these things are not either available anymore or need to be advertised a bit more.
I wonder if it's about communication of it. So I can definitely take that back to the faculty about communicating what is available to students in terms of reduced costs, looking at the paperless submission, just sort of going through that again of what they can reduce in terms of what is a physical submission and what doesn't need to be. So really happy to take that back. It is a specific, it's your faculty, it doesn't happen so much in other faculties, so it's quite sort of easy for us to go and start to have those conversations with them.
Sorry, before we close, is there anybody that has another follow-up question or something?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I do. It's just a note, I know you mentioned that the costs are in fact noted on the faculty's websites or on that, but also there is a discrepancy about how much it might be, so it might be also worth checking when they were last updated, or whether they, whether or not, if there is a discrepancy between how much students are reporting they might be paying and how much it might be listed at right now.
I think that's the key thing, the reality. I think so. The website, for CMA laws, we have to update it regularly, and they would be reviewed each year. But it's whether, in reality, that it's somehow costing more, and it could be because of the things that you've discussed, that people are going and they're doing last minute, so it's fast turnaround, they're paying premium, or they're going external when actually we've got that type of facility internally. But I think I think that's part of the conversation really, is to make sure if it's aligning. So I absolutely will feed that back.
I have a question. Also a suggestion regarding hidden costs. As we are law students, we not always required to get like study books, like legislation books, and often students don't buy books because we got law through when universities providing other opportunities where we can sort of find out like materials for our studies. But the problem is some exams allow us to carry legislation books, but only for that particular day we had to buy books for just one day, and it's quite difficult for students to just buy one book for one exam, just particularly one day. Is there any way the university can support, or any like for example, a university can provide the laptops that university have during the exam period, which can be used just for the exam and for the legislations, or any other way to resolve this?
I think two things spring to mind. One is the library service, and to see whether a physical or electronic book is available. Is that?
No, unfortunately, the library doesn't have the latest book, because legislation always get like changed and.
So not electronic.
Electronic, we can't use our laptop during the exam, and we have to buy the book and only for legislation.
Okay. And then the sort of just a laptop, you know, I mean, if you're not, I mean, it's a conversation, I suppose, about having access to those, but in terms of, do you mean access to a laptop, or do you mean bringing a laptop so that you can refer to them for?
Not really.
So these open book exams?
Yes, not fully open, just the legislation book.
And there are some students who have the book who can take that into the exam, and some students who can't, but there's an e-resource.
Yeah.
But it's getting the e-resource in the exam.
Yeah, we can't, we are not allowed to get e-resources.
Yeah.
And all of the students required to get the legislation book in order to do well in the exam.
So the question is about the students who are happy to use their laptops outside of the exam to do the research. It's just the exam, you don't require the book just for the exam.
Because I'm aware that library has laptop, and if the university can restrict only for the legislation website, and the students can carry that laptop during the exam period, that would be huge help.
Or what Rachel said is maybe if the library buys the book, you will have to purchase.
Yes, that would be also like.
So
But
therefore, then there'd be equals for every student.
yes, and in order to do that properly, the university needs to have like more than 300 books for just legislation.
I think that would be that's the thing, isn't it? And like you say, they very quickly go out of date because of
it gets outdated.
So maybe the resource like you mentioned.
Yeah, resource.
So it's sorry, it's probably again it's a conversation with the faculty about having access to those e-resources and us, putting that as a inequity really in terms of people that aren't able to buy it, and it does seem crazy to buy a book for one exam if that's the situation. So we can certainly take that back to law and see what they can do in that space, and also the associate director of library services as well. He might have some thoughts around what could be done in that space, whether it's purchasing or whether it's extract. We'll have some. I'll ask him around that what he can put, and I'll feed back to this group.
Thank you.
Do you know if the money that the uni is like spending on paper and ink, is it less than what they're making? So are they making profit from students printing?
So I don't. Library services is not under my remit, but I very much doubt it. And usually everything we do in terms of services break even. We just cover our costs. But I can ask that question. I would be certain that they're not looking to make a profit on it. And they were reduced. There was some reduction in printing, and there has been. We do go around the conversation about making printing free and not. But I think it's just deemed too high a cost to be able to not just cover its costs, printing costs. But I'll ask that question in the same conversation with Dave Culprit, his name is.
Thank you.
Similar sort of the library conversation, probably outside of this room. But especially in the healthcare courses, there are a lot of paper, hardcover, like textbooks and books that we are literally told to go back and read physical books for referencing, because those are what we base our evidence and practice on. But for disabled students such as myself and other people during most other courses, is there plans to expand our e-resource provision for books that we currently have in stock at the library? Because there is a massive healthcare library on every campus and there's an absolutely amazing resource, but going through those very, very thick books with lots and lots of words can be very, very challenging to get through. and using a lot of the assistive technology that the government helped fund, it doesn't really quite match with the hardcover books that we have. So e-resources might complement massively to the technology, the assistive technology that we use.
My understanding is, again, libraries not with it in my section, but is that there is very much a move away from hard copy to electronic books, and that's their strategic plan. So that would be the plan. Again, if it can easily, I can work that into this conversation. If you're finding that you don't have, you're being referenced, if you're reading this, have books on that are not electronically available, I think that's sort of a conversation we have, and it might be if we can get some examples from sort of after this, if we can get some examples that we can put that to the library services to see. And they will have, I've worked in a faculty, they do supply reading lists to the libraries for them to stock off on the books, but to make that move more towards electronic, if that's the preferred, which I'm kind of hearing it is, other than the complication with the exam. But I think they need to make that wholesale move really towards electronic, which includes exams. So thank you. Yeah, I'll take that back and I'll feed it back.
Thank you for the feedback. And I think there's a lot of conversation surrounding the library reading course, and which shows there's a lot of things we need to do, and there's a lot of things we need to work on. So which is like a good one. And
so just if libraries is sort of quite a recurring theme. So the next one we'll get library services here, because I think it would be really, really useful for them to hear from you about your lived experience about this.
Yeah, so I'm conscious of time because we still have a lot of things on the agenda. So we'll move to the next one, which is accommodation. So the question is coming from Kelly.
Let's see the next one.
So many students have had a poor experience with booking accommodation for the 2023-24 academic year due to technical issues. I was one of these people actually. So far, these students have been offered expensive or inconvenient alternatives at other campuses. And what other support can the university do for those affected and to ensure that this does not happen again?
So this year we had we call it a glitch with the system. It meant that the booking system that students use in order to see what rooms are available, it went down and it prevented people from actually completing their bookings. That coupled with more demands on the student accommodation meant that there was just more pressure for rooms, and so we got to the point where we had to close the bookings because we needed to, one, manage the traffic on the website. I think it was a server issue that caused the issue. There was a way that we could see who had applied for rooms, so we were able to contact those people who had tried to make a booking and it had been completed. And it created kind of like a waiting list. There was also a second date where people who haven't completed their application, the rooms get released again. So what we did in terms of support for this year were those that we were able to identify to say they have tried to book a room but couldn't. We, when those, on that second day, when the rooms opened, they were allowed to go and book a room. The plan B or the additional options that students have if they weren't able to book is for private accommodation, so they can go via student pad, or they would have been given links to private accommodation. It is more expensive, and I think that's why there is so much more demand on the student accommodation. We're hearing about all the pressures that are already on their finances, so returning back to halls is a priority for them. So the issue with the server was a one-off, and it's very difficult to plan for that not to happen, but we have as a team discussed, making sure that the staff are logged in on time so that we can respond to any issues, and to let our IT team know ahead of that day to expect more traffic. That's kind of the technical side. We also identify the challenge that there would be for people who have additional support needs. So I've had conversations with the wellbeing team around how we can increase our communication. So there is a period where anybody who's identified as having any additional support or wellbeing needs has an opportunity to book ahead of that kind of peak traffic time for booking. So we will increase the amount of communications that go out so that people know that there's going to be an influx and there's going to be quite a high demand. And where there is such a high number of people trying to get rooms, ultimately there will be some that aren't able to book, and that is the reality. We also need to consider the times in which we open up the bookings. So the bookings opened ahead of class time with the intention that people are in their rooms, they are able to book on their phone or their computer, but we need to consider also travel time for those students that have to travel to other campuses. How does that work for them logistically? So we are looking at the IT support, making sure that the service can handle the additional traffic. We're looking at having staff that are going to be online at those early hours to be able to help and troubleshoot. And we're going to look at increasing communication with those for the wellbeing team to make sure that they get to book ahead of that peak time. And the last one was around the travel times. So we are still looking at that. I think because it had already been considered, it's difficult to move that any earlier. We're looking at 7 a.m. We're looking at a lot earlier than
What about later?
Later in the evenings? Yes, yeah, we'll take it on board. I think we still have to consider that people might be coming back on the coaches, or they still might be coming back from work commitments. But definitely,
because this year there were people who were pulling all-nighters trying to do it.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to see. But,
is there an optimum time, do you think?
I would say something like maybe 5, but then there's people travelling back from campus and whatnot.
Yeah, it could, or even later. Could it be even later then?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Okay, all right.
And with the, the second block of booking, when it reopens, is that just for people on the waiting list?
It was on this occasion, and I think that was because we identified that they were actually trying to book on, but because of the technical issues, they were hindered from doing that, and we needed to make sure that that was the way that we were still able to give them an opportunity again when it came up. So it wasn't opened up to the wider. We had around 150 people that had tried to make a booking that weren't able to, so those are the ones we had. But there was only about 43 rooms that became available, which all went on the same day. So in the communications we said that you have to keep checking, because where people have actually cancelled their booking, there might be the ad hoc room that becomes available, so they have to keep having a look and see their availability.
Yeah, we've got something else positive this year coming as well. We've got the commitment to upgrade Bling, which is a court that has been out of action now for 3 years, I think. So Bling court won't be ready for September, I'm afraid, because the people are going in there now to start. They've just gone in there now, but that whole hall will be back. Hopefully, I think. So and that will really increase our number of bed spaces at Avery Hill, and we need that back. It's not been able to be opened because it is in quite poorly state at the moment. But it's a really positive that the commitment's been put into that court, and that might actually be outside of many of the people in the rooms now's time at the university, but that court is coming back.
Yeah, and I think also we appreciate that it's easy to say, well, have you considered Avery Hill? Because not Avery Hill, Medway, because there is more availability at Medway. However, that does come with the challenge of the buses and travelling in. But we will always say that is an option, because it's still cheaper than the private market. But obviously you have to factor in the price for the buses from Medway into Manager.
Because it's very tricky, because there's a lot of people, with School of Education, our teaching placement are based out of Avery Hill, so it's 90 minutes by public transport, and that could be like towards London. And if if we're living in Medway, then it could be like a 2-hour trip, and it would be very difficult. But yeah, thank you for that. And also, actually, on the note of accommodation, with the moving in, like for September, last year, it's more sort of like management really, but like last year there was a lot of issues with cleaning. People who moved in, it was, dare I say, it was a bit of a tip. Like there was mess in the cupboards, particularly in Avery Hill in particular. Mess in the cupboards, like stuff on the floor everywhere. It was quite dirty, and like personally, I spent my first day doing a deep clean, and that should have been done by the uni.
Absolutely, it should have done, and you should have moved into accommodation with substandard.
And I sent an email, but I didn't get a reply.
Right, okay.
So.
Can you tell me which, was that in Ambling, Seymour Arrogant or Cleves?
It was in
Cleves, yeah, they are actually very clear. I know one of the big challenges we had this year is that we had people, the summer schools moving out very, very late and early. I think we had early arrivals. Arrivals was earlier. However, you are paying for a clean flat that is adequate and tidy, and we do have extra staff in on that moving in weekend. We pay for extra cleaners, etc., etc. So maybe we need to advertise the fact of how you can get help when you move in that situation, because you should not have had to do that cleaning. Someone should have done that cleaning for you, and I'm sorry no one answered your email. I'm not sure which direction that went off in, but that's just not acceptable at all.
Thank you. I can't fault Sodexo, that they are brilliant, like with their weekly cleans and everything. So.
Well, it would have been Sodexo that should have got it cleaned.
We're going to do more post-inspections though, not pre-inspections. So what's supposed to happen is, between Sodexo team and the accommodation team, we're trying to get into more rooms ahead of the move-in to make sure that the cleaning's being done. So there is one thing to expect the clean to be done, but what are we doing to check and make sure that it's being done? So for this September, there's going to be more effort on the accommodation team side to get into the rooms, to look around, to make sure the cleaning is done. And we've also been speaking with Sodexo, who will commit to that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of like time as well. I would suggest we take like a 2-minute break, then we'll come back so that we can refresh. Feel free to get some coffee here, there's cookies. The next on agenda, which is international students. I think there's a question from Devon regarding the accommodation.
Yeah, so less to do with pricing and more to do with the provision for disabled students. So coming in on accommodation, we're getting a lot of feedback from students about the accessibility of accommodation for disabled students, including wheelchair accessibility and assistive technology accessibility. So ramp access to buildings, support from staff for disabled students getting help when they use the Safe Zone app, or the provision of the amount of plug sockets in rooms, or there's just a lot of disability feedback ranging from like physical access and technological access as well. So it's a really mix of things that ideally we'd like to see improved. Is there any way that we can support this?
Yeah, so just going over the point, so we're talking about ramp access in terms of wheelchair use and the different types of rooms that we have available,
yes.
Accessibility needs and technological. So the first point that I know that I can say is about the bowling project, that we are in discussion about how we improve those rooms to make it a bit more accessible. We do at Avery Hill, I can't remember the exact number of rooms that we have allocated or that are adapted, I beg your pardon, to be accessible mobility-wise. So there are things that we have to take into consideration also around adaptations for hearing impaired or sight impaired. those kind of considerations. As part of the bowling project, we're looking to bring up the rooms to make sure that they are at DDA disability.
The current
Thank you. The current compliance is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And other moves, we have the ability that should somebody come to us and say, I have these additional needs, how can I be accommodated? We'll work with them, occupational therapists, to say, what are the needs? It's something that is always on our agenda in our meetings to say what requirements are we looking at. So we talked about beacons, for example, for people that are hearing impaired. So it is something that is on, and we are continuously talking about, but I do think that there is value in having a representative, a student representative, speaking with the accommodation team, because like we're talking about lived experience, what are the challenges, and we can consider those so it doesn't become a single meeting point. It's something that we feed into all of our practices, and so that over time our accommodation starts becoming more welcoming. So I'd be really interested if there's anyone who wants to come forward to have that kind of relationship with us so that we can improve our accommodation.
I mean, that would be me. I'm the GSU Disabled Students Chair as well, but that's outside of this one.
We've also done a lot with neurodiversity as well, with our accommodation, and what happens really, and with all of our buildings, is when it's built, it's to the standard of the time that it's built, and then when we renew it to the newest standard. But as Leslie has said, when we work very closely with students with quite severe disabilities on some occasions, we work very, very closely with them as early as we can to make sure that, because the disability room will not be disability friendly for every single disability, and we make a lot of adjustments and amendments and working with OTs. Unfortunately, Daniel Defoe, the way it was designed, which is at the moment our most modern accommodation, is that the way it was designed was all of the disabled rooms are on the mezzanine floor. There is no accommodation on the ground floor, which means that everybody has to rely on the lifts to get them up and down. But we're always open to suggestions. We've always got funding set aside for making improvements, and the team that does a lot of this designing now, they've recently been on neurodiversity training. I think it's opened their eyes up a bit as well, because what they think is beautifully architecturally, like Dreadnought, for example, when you go outside there, for some people with severe neurodiversity needs, it's a nightmare space. So I think having that thing, and we're working with other universities that are a lot further on their journey with this as well. So I think we're all learning, and the only way we learn is when we're working with the students, because our perception is different.
We were having a discussion this morning about how we can make our moving week for students more accessible, and we are planning a quieter week, or a quieter because it can be quite.
I did that quite a bit. It was actually really, really useful.
Good. So So we want to do that again for this moving, because overstimulation. There's a lot of busy things happening. We need to consider that different people process things in different ways. So how can we make it more welcoming? Like I said before, but thank you for that, Helen. The training that the staff have been on has opened our eyes to our Res Life posters, even the kind of Res Life events that we're doing. It's not always these big, big social events. How can we do different events that are maybe sensory based or quieter based, and that appeal to the different students that we have in the community?
This sort of education for staff, does that include the staff that are involved in security campus overnight? Because there are a lot of issues that students have raised, some more significant than others, that do need to be addressed, with students not getting support when they use things like the Safe Zone app, or when they call security for support overnight because something has happened or their legs don't work and they need help. There's a lot of...
That upsets me a lot as well, that we're not responding to Safe Zone, because we test Safe Zone ourselves as well, and I would say to any student that doesn't get a response on Safe Zone, either report it on EvoTix, or which is the new accident reporting system, or through report and support, and we can get on that as soon as possible, or email Greenwich facilities, and one of us will pick that up, because that Safe Zone is there to absolutely help in a situation where someone needs help, and if they're becoming unreliable, or they're not getting the right response from the security guard in the middle of the night, then we want to know, because if nobody tells us, we can't address it. We do a lot of work with security guards. We are trying to get more female guards in posts as well, and it is a huge struggle to get female security guards, because they do a 4-on-4 off shift, and a lot of females at the moment don't seem to want to do the night shifts, and for me we need a mix of all security guards to match the student base. So, if you would like to send me any of those complaints personally to my email, I can pick those up.
And just to also, Leslie said it, but I was thinking exactly the same thing in terms of the student representation. Leslie's on the board for the development of the LIN as well, so if there was something that should be standard, that just from the student perspective, I mean, it might already be covered, but it'd be worth you have just feeding into that conversation. I think that'd be really helpful if you two swap details as well. And I think, and just the last thing is about the night. I mean, the security, everything that Helen says still stands. The security do need to be responding to those. One thing we're recruiting to is a night team, a resident welfare team. That it's not the easiest to recruit to actually, but that are much more about student support and responding to crisis, and also that pastoral role, that the security guards, it's not specifically their role, so this is to bridge that gap.
Thank you so much for that. I just want us to be conscious of that, because we have roughly less than an hour left, and we have so many things on the agenda items to discuss. So I would just be mindful of our time and the questions, the answers as well. So we should try to keep everything that we very similar. So and thank you for the feedback. So heading to the next one, which is international students. Kate is here. Is Christopher in as well? Christopher is in. So Hamini will be the one to ask the question. So I pass it down.
So the question is,
I think you have to. So go for it.
Yeah. So. What is the procedure for international students to return home during holidays and when term ends?
Hi, Krista. It's a little bit disconcerting. I can't see you. I can just see Mark at the moment. I think you're just to the right. Yeah, that's better. There you are. Could you just clarify for me a little bit more? I'm assuming you mean students that hold a student visa, and could you give me a little bit more information about, a bit more context to the question, if possible?
I think the question is like, how long an international student can stay back home, and when they can return. How about the terms ends, like, when it ends, like over and structure and that things.
I'm sorry. And also I want to add something to you. So basically the question is just like, some students actually come up to me officers like, I'm not allowed to go home now. In case of like an emergency, they have a bereavement at home, they want to go home and stuff like that. So they don't really know how to go about that. So we come across some questions like that. So it will really be great if you can use this medium to address such issues, so that we'll be able to pass the information down to our peers, the students as well.
Do you mean in term time?
Yeah, both in term time and off term time as well.
Yeah, that's helpful, and I'm aware there are a lot of questions around this. So the first thing I would say is we've got two different things which come into play here. So we've got university regulations around attendance, so what the faculty expectation is for a student to attend and when they're supposed to attend and how they're supposed to engage and when. And then we've got the home office, which may come into play when a student is travelling outside the UK, coming back into the UK. So those are two separate things, but they can relate to each other. Also, the other thing to mention is that the university doesn't have any ability ability to decide when a student should leave the UK or not. Ultimately, obviously, the bottom line is it's the student's decision. We run a workshop, usually every month, but depending on demand, specifically for this topic. And it's usually a good idea that students come and engage with our service because there is some nuance and complexity depending on the student's circumstances. Every student's circumstances are slightly different. There isn't any exit checks when a student leaves the UK, so the UK government doesn't make any record of when someone's left the UK. But students can have questions when they re-enter the UK if they've been travelling during term time. So this is where it links up to the university policy, because if a student's travelling during the term time, they should always be talking to their faculty or to their retention and success officer who works with that faculty to find out exactly what are the engagement expectations at that point in time. And if they need to take a period of time away from studies, that absence should always be authorised. There are some grey areas as well sometimes, because at some points of people's programmes they might discover that they're expected to engage, but there isn't actually any physical engagement. So they might have online activity only for short periods, or they might be in a dissertation phase. And that's where it can get more complicated for students, because they come to us and they say, well, I've got a dissertation, I don't have to physically attend anything. Right now I'm between submitting my dissertation and starting a placement on the MBA programme, and I'm submitting online quizzes, but there's nothing for me to attend. The bottom line always is that students should be referring to their retention and success officer and their faculty if there's any doubt at all about what type of engagement they're expected to have at that point in time. And as long as the student is satisfied with the university engagement and attendance policy, usually things will pan out okay for them. There is a slight area of complexity when it comes to eligibility to the graduate route, and I'm potentially reluctant to get into all the ins and outs of that here, but it is something that we cover from my team in detail with students. So one area of the immigration rules that can impact on students if they have a period of time away from the UK during term time, even if their faculty have authorised it, is that it can potentially impact on their ability to get the graduate route later on if that period of absence from the UK is longer than a few weeks. So this is getting into slightly more complex areas of immigration law, so that's why we always ask students to come and engage with us, because there aren't really simplistic answers to these questions. Did you have any other questions within that? It's a little bit sort of difficult to unpack it fully.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think you made mention of something earlier, which I think you didn't actually touch it that much, which should be understandable to our students, which is the Home Office policy. To my own understanding, I know repeatedly, like, if you live the UK, if you're outside the UK for 180 days, automatically your visa has been terminated. I don't know if there's another policy or something like that the students need to be aware of as well before traveling outside the UK.
Yeah, good question. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, the Home Office don't have any stipulations specifically that the student must be here. As I mentioned, there is a stipulation within the graduate route rules that the student has spent all of their time studying in the UK. We could get into a conversation about that, but I think it will derail, this meeting. It's probably better to do it outside this meeting. So that's my one caveat, that people need to think carefully about the graduate route. And if they're going to have a period of time outside the UK, they should always think about how that might impact applying for the graduate route later on. But there's no rule that says that if you spend X amount of days outside the UK that your visa will be cancelled. That isn't a piece of immigration law that applies to the UK. The UK government don't check when you leave the UK. The most important thing is the UKVI or the Home Office have an expectation that the university is implementing an attendance and engagement policy. So that's one of the reasons why the university has an attendance and engagement policy that it expects all students to follow. And as you're probably really familiar with, if a student on a student visa is not able to follow the attendance and engagement policy, that's when eventually there can be an impact on student visa. But there's no rule from the Home Office that says a student cannot leave the UK, or if they're outside the UK for X period of time, that their visa is going to be cancelled. So the more important point is, what is the university's attendance policy, and what does it say about when students should be attending? That's what students should always be following. In addition to that, they really should come to my service so we can fully brief them.
Oh, thank you.
And we can answer all of their questions in detail as well.
Oh, sorry, is there anyone in the room that has a follow-up question?
I've got a question actually. And
I'm sorry, before you start, please, you need to be brief.
Yes, I'll be very mindful of time.
Thank you.
Yes. So my question is more clarification of students, international students specifically, in positions where they maybe are facing withdrawal because they have missed a few classes for whatever extenuating circumstances might be. Are you saying that the best point of contact for them is the retention success officers, and that information is, I'm guessing, is publicly available on the portal website? Is it?
Yeah. I can address that one, Katie, because the RSO sort of fall under me. So when it comes to international students getting to that point where we're going to withdraw them, there would have been several weeks of us trying to contact them. The RSOs work closely with GSU on a retention project to highlight those students for that piece of work, for those who are on the cusp of withdrawing. If students have got genuine reasons and can authorise their absence, then the policy, we can revert the claims that are going to be withdrawn, it can be brought back. But that would be where Katie's team and my team would work closely, because mine can talk about the policy we have in place and how we can then make sure the student stays on course. But what might be slightly different is when the student then gets to a situation where, Sadiq I think was getting at, it gets more complicated.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all public, and we do the communications, we do text messaging, and we work with GSU to make sure the comms are as understood as they can be.
Thank you very much. That was it.
Thank you. Is there any follow-up question? Okay, we move to the next agenda item, which is on women's safety. So Ria will be the one to ask the question. Ria, can you please unmute yourself and go for it?
Hi. Firstly, I would like to apologize for not being able to make it in person. I really appreciate the opportunity that I've got to present this pressing issue. So, I really look up to how the university is very warm and welcoming to all the students in terms of inclusivity, but it's undeniable that a lot of women still face safety issues in and around the campus, inside the class, or be it any event or an accommodation. So I wanted to ask what the university is doing to be able to focus on this.
Do you want me to take that first of all? Can you hear me? Sorry, am I speaking loud enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we do take everybody's safety that are in our accommodation and our campuses really seriously. And we do have some issues, particularly on the London sites and the London areas around the campuses. But there are lots of things that we are doing that probably maybe are not as well advertised as they should be. One of the things that we do, particularly in October when the nights start to draw in, we do safety walks in the evening, about 7 o'clock in the evening, where we invite anybody, staff, students, anybody to walk with us around the campuses and the accommodations and the routes to look at for any dark areas or any areas of concern, and then we address those issues that are raised, because the campus at night is a very different campus to it during the day. Anybody's welcome on those walks to join us on those walks, but they're not very well attended. But we still, as soon as the clocks go back, the campuses do have to be dark. We carry out those walks. Other things that we do have 24/7 security on all of our sites. And we do try and train our security guards to be mindful to all genders, and also, as I said, we are trying to recruit more female security guards, which that is a massive issue, but one day we will get there. And on the par with that, Rachel's team are trying to recruit this night warden team as well to support security, and we also have the resident assistants that are actually trained that are around at night as well. So there's all those layers in accommodation at the moment. We also have in the university bars and security are trained in this as well. We've got Ask Angela. I can't remember what the opposite for Ask Angela is.
Andrew. Ask Andrew.
Andrew, and that was based on, I think there's a lady called Angela Crompton, who that was where the Ask Angela came from, and that should be displayed in toilets and in other areas. So our staff are trained in that. We also have the Safe Zone app, and I know that that's been criticised a little bit in this room today, but the Safe Zone app is there for everybody to get help when they need it. We have been trying now for 2 years. We got the funding 2 years ago to get a PCSO, that's an employed policeman that would be just dedicated to our sites at Avery Hill and Greenwich. We did have one at Medway, but Kent Police withdrew that support. The university will be paying for this, a member of the police force, just to work on our sites. Unfortunately, the police have not been able to recruit into that role yet, but I met with the sergeant this morning who's actually going to start advertising that. But you will see members of the Met Police sitting in Stockwell Street canteen and Dreadnought canteen, sitting there in their uniform, and we have got some female staff that come as well to Avery Hill that are there for you to talk to, but we really do want to get that dedicated resource in place. What else are we doing? We've got report and support, which is really important, and the accident reporting system. We've also part of the, and we really want some students to come along to this, it's called the Safety in Neighbourhoods Network, which is a network for the, there's one for Avery Hill and there's one for Greenwich. And it's to do with where policing are going to spend their money and invest their money. And my point to the police is that there's a lot of elderly people that attend those networks, but we've got huge student accommodation communities in these areas. And I want you to be influencing how the policing is carried out in these areas. And these meetings at the moment, the police are really keen to get some young blood flowing through these meetings and to make them real for your needs. Also, people need to talk to us and report anything that you think we could be doing better. And Rachel, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
No, that's quite comprehensive answer.
We in terms of accommodation, we're adding an orientation element to the students before they come. So one of those is a course on like consent and the personal safety. I'm trying to remember the title, I beg your pardon. So that's something that we're hoping to have ready for the September intake, and it's more of an educational piece that each student that goes into halls will be able to access, and it's like a video learning tool. So that's the aim for September.
We also have the police at Freshers Fair, don't we? The community police officer here approached me, but I directed him to you because of Freshers, so they come talk about safety, and also the phones there.
And the police, if there's any particular areas that, because they know they're indebted to us at the moment because they haven't provided this resource that I'm willing to pay for, they are absolutely willing to come into the campuses and talk to groups of students about any type of safety. Sorry, you've got your hand up, it was your question. Railroaded.
Hi, Nova. Do you want to ask any question?
Yes, please. I have two quick questions. First is regarding the transport of Midway or Greenwich or Avery Hill. The students are facing a problem regarding the tickets. If the pressures when they come in the UK, they bought some tickets, as a whole, the £100 tickets, or maybe the £50 tickets, which would be around 25 tickets or maybe more. So when the tickets got expired, they all the money are wasted, because some of their classes are in Midway and other classes will be in Greenwich campus. So lots of tickets are left behind, and just because of the time duration, the tickets are expired and their money are wasted. So students are complaining, they are suffering these kind of problems, because when they came in the campus, they bought tickets as a whole, as a much, and then when the tickets are expired, they don't like allowed to extend the tickets or something like that. So I think so we should have to do something for it, because lots of students are facing this problem. So my first question is regarding this. So what should the students do after, like if they got some expired tickets, like half of the money are wasted just because they have some of the classes in the main campus and another one in the local campus they are living. So what should they do for it? Is there
Shall I take that question first? So the bus tickets is sold by another department within our wider regime. I didn't realise that the bus tickets did expire. I'm assuming that you buy them in. I think the more you buy, the cheaper they are. And then if you've got 100 and you only use 90, 10 have expired, I would have to go back to my colleague, and I'm assuming that we can send written responses back to find out what that is, because I didn't know they expired and you lost your money. I thought they could be exchanged for more tickets. So we will pick that up. I'm sorry, I can't answer the question, but I'll find out for you.
All right, okay. And just the second one, quick question. It's regarding the convocation. Although I think so, it's quite different, question from all the scenarios. Like everyone is talking about the ratings or accommodation or the passport. Well, it's all about the convocation, because the students are complaining that the Greenwich campus is the main campus. So the engineering students and the science students are asking that we have to attend the convocation in the Greenwich campus, not the Midway campus. So just because maybe the Greenwich is so historical, or it's a main campus, and they're not reliable to commute from Greenwich to Midway, their parents or their the guiders who are going to attend the convocation. So can we take steps regarding it? Because the Greenwich is the main campus. So is there any possibility to conduct the convocation for engineering students in the main campus, not the Midway or the average? Because obviously the main campus is more historical, and they sponsor their parents to show our campus and all that. But after seeing this campus, the engineering ones, it's a foreign thing. The people are not as much happy to conduct the convocation, to attend the convocation in the Midway. So can we take steps regarding it?
So I'm going to answer this really honestly. It's really unlikely that we would move Medway students to Greenwich. It's a huge operation, and the Medway is in Rochester Cathedral. It is, it's a beautiful setting, and it's where the logistics of moving a student to the Greenwich campus, they are based around where. So I don't want to say to you that we'll look to move cohorts to Greenwich, because it's not going to logistically be possible. I just want to manage expectations, just be honest about that.
I can understand it's hard to move the engineering students to the Greenwich campus, but the students are complaining that we are expecting to attend a convocation in the Greenwich campus, but we are here to attend it. So it's not as much, students are not as much happy to attend a convocation in the Midway campus. So I just raised the question, that's it.
It's probably worth mentioning that the graduations for those students doesn't actually happen on the Midway campus. It does happen in Rochester. As Rachel's mentioned, it's in Rochester Cathedral, which is, I think, the second oldest cathedral in the country. And you graduate in a very prestigious building, and you leave and you're opposite Rochester Castle. So there is a lot of grandeur around the location. it is a very pretty location, and I completely get the main campus part, but there is that history and link between the Medway campus and Rochester because of its past, and there are some students who do praise the cathedral because it is a little bit more grand, and you have the big, it is a big ceremony, and we do have people enjoy it there. So just to put it out there is that historic part. In fact, the cathedral's older than the campus here at Greenwich. There is more history and there is more grandeur.
Yeah, I understand that, but the students are expecting, like the Greenwich is renowned by the tombs and all that. So that's why I just raised the question. Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, can I just go back to women's safety? Have I answered your question, or is there anything else that you like to? By all means, I can send you my email address and we can talk privately around this if there's any ideas, because I know we're running out of time now.
I think if there's any idea, they can send us like a written response and we'll be able to pass that.
Fantastic.
So we'll move to the next agenda item now to make things a little bit faster because of time as well. So we'll move now to timings, which is MD Visual and is here to ask the question.
Thank you for it. Actually, students seem to have many issues around timings, and there's like two different issues. One of the issues is they often report significant gaps in between classes and spread across 5 different days. And I was successfully able to raise it to our faculty, and they reduced it to 4 because we had to go on Mondays and where we only have only 1 seminar. But I think in future as well, I would like to raise this, and if possible, students are suggesting to have 4 days and not having the long gaps, because it's quite difficult to find a place to study as well because of like lack of space and stay for a long time, because library only allows to book study rooms for only 2 hours as well. And another issue with timing is there are also deadline clusters with large assignments being submitted on the same days and weeks. And for example, we had 2 big coursework in same week, and we were struggling to sort of manage the time. What can be done to help manage these timing issues?
Okay. So in terms of the timetables, the faculty is actually have input in terms of setting out the timetables in terms of the first draft. And then what happens is once the timetable has been confirmed, it's actually the faculty coordinator within the faculty agreeing with that programme.
Sorry, is it possible to speak up?
Oh, sorry.
People online. Thank you.
I'll try to get my So I think you've done the right thing. I think if you've got any issues with timetabling, I suggest you go back to your faculty and report that. It's easier for the faculty to address a problem if it's a cohort issue rather than on a one-to-one basis like an individual problem. So I think that's where you go. In terms of the gaps within the timetable, sometimes that's put in place. One, because obviously demand on the estate in terms of we're quite compressed in terms of our rooms and availability we have, but also it's an opportunity for students to work together in terms of preparing the work for their lectures, their tutorials and their studies. So also sometimes that's why gaps in the timetable are put in place, so you can work together as a group. So that's the timetable one. In terms of the assessment deadlines, they are set by the module leaders within the faculty. We do check to see if there's assessment overload and confirm. So that is taken into consideration. However, sometimes it's difficult in terms of ensuring that there are gaps within when the assessments take place. And in terms of the academic calendar, which is online, it clearly shows when the assessment weeks take place. Sometimes assessments take place outside of that, simply because the faculty want the students to complete the course so they can do well in terms of their assessments. So there's sometimes one continuously, one after the other. So once again, that's a difficult one because it's dictated by the course in terms of the module leaders, the faculties. You can raise that but also you need to take into consideration in terms of, it's really important that you finish your course before the main assessments take place to ensure that you get the best grade.
Just a follow-up question on that, about the time issue. As we are aware that the deadline is like, if we sort of like exceed the deadline to 1 minute, and if we don't submit the work on time, then our marks get kept to 40. And students do appreciate and try to submit all the time, although there are some issues we faced for the ITs. But students are reporting and raising inquiries several times on like our group chats regarding the coursework feedbacks, like coming back like very late. So according to the policy, it says probably 15 working days, but for example, now we got 2 different modules feedback, which came after probably 4 weeks, and also we are sort of expecting another one, and it also got delayed. So students are quite sort of like wants to find a solution for that.
Once again, that's really the faculties, and I can report that back on terms of the students' behalf, because if it's 15-day turnaround, then like, the faculty expect you to submit on time.
Yes.
Should submit. It should be reciprocal in terms of, you know, you should get feedback. If it's 15 working days, then you should get it back in 15 working days.
I presume you have, sorry, it's just desperate to move this on. I presume you have access to your faculty, you know, in your roles, that there are certain things that are better sort of to have, because it will be their management of their staff and their systems in terms of feedback. And sort of having that influence over the timetable as well. We operationalise the timetable, but it definitely comes from the faculty, you know, and it's logistically challenging as well. But just on the submission, one of the things that I would very quickly wanted to tell you is that we're revising our extenuating circumstances policy, and it will include 2 things that might be helpful for that. One is a grace period, so it's a 48 hours beyond the deadline. So if something just crops up, it gives you that grace period, so you're not immediately capped in the way you've described. You will be beyond that grace period, but it's just to give people a bit more of a chance. And the second thing is self-certification as well. So if the example I always use is if someone has norovirus or something of sickness bugs and they don't really go to their GP and get a doctor's certificate that takes 3 weeks or costs them £90 to get, this will allow you to self-certificate to say, actually, I was really unwell at that time. And so we're not looking for the evidence for those periods. There's a limit to how many times you can do that, because obviously if you did that every assignment, then there's something more going on there. But so just we're trying to make our processes much more student friendly and like take out, you know, anything that actually is an obstacle for you beyond, you know, you do need to submit the work. So we're just trying to work with those improvements, just to make those improvements for our students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I move to the next agenda item, I would like to apologize to each and everyone, because we are a little bit late, and though we started late, and also I will send a personal apology as well to Ria, because you are meant to be the next agenda item. I would appreciate if you can do like a written statement so that we'll be able to pass it across to you. So I will now give on the opportunity to like ask the question, which is the final question of the day.
So this is about how can us as student network officers / GSU hold leaders and decision makers within the university accountable for issues that are being raised by our program reps, because a lot of the time we go to these student success committees and we raise issues and there are discussions around it at that point, but we don't see anything past that, and I'm not sure if it is a breakdown of communication past that or there's a loss of action past that point. There has been one point that has been acted on, but we didn't know until we raised it to the head of school. But apart from that, there are multiple issues that have been raised that haven't been communicated or actioned on, from what we know.
Okay, it's a really good question. Actually, what we're doing here today is exactly the right way forward. I mean, I'd said to Emma, can we do this? Because we really like to hear from students. There will be times where it's different areas of the university. So just going back to the faculty thing, that's probably a separate agreement in terms of getting that feedback. But in terms of our services, the student academic services, I'm really, really happy to be accountable for and just thinking about how you want to hear back from those. Is it through the GSU? Is it updates in a forum? Is it bring them back to something like this? I mean, I've got some takeaways from today. You know, some things we can answer here, but some of the things that we're having to take away because it will mean some conversations. But I'm really happy to feed those back. And to us, it's so important to hear from our students and hear, you know, what your challenges are and put anything in place that we can do to help. So, I mean, maybe in a way, throw back at you is how do you want us to communicate them back? Because obviously all of us have lots of different communications and your emails, it might get messed, etc. So, I mean, I'm really happy for you to determine which way that is the best way to feed that back.
So what I would say is that us as school network officers, we are that link at this point. We are the link between the school and GSU. We are representing the student reps, which is 10, 20 programs. And it is, I think, written communication or updates on where things are with the things that we raise are really, really important, because transparency fosters trust in this situation, especially when we're trying to advocate for others. That way we can feed back to the people that are raising these issues, because we're prior to conversations that they're not a part of, which is our role. But if we're not a part of conversations that are making the decisions of the issues that we're raising, then it breaks down the communication between us and them, and then us in the university as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emma, have you any thoughts about sort of that communication piece?
Yeah, so it's something that we look at quite a lot, and we've been having conversations particularly about how, like my team will look after, you know, they'll be within the student success committees and you'll see them at the faculty meetings, and how do we then bring that information back to you, what we know has happened, because sometimes things will directly come to us and obviously then we've got to pass that along to you. So, and the traditional routes of emails, etc., like Rachel said, don't always get picked up. So that's kind of what this session is for. We're recording it so it can go on the website so students can see it, so you can be that kind of voice that amplifies, and then we're trying to do the work for you to get that back to students. But we would absolutely welcome any thoughts on how you think we could better close that feedback loop with students.
And I don't know if you have a team site or anything like that in terms, I mean, say for example the pre-prepared questions, we've drafted responses to a minimum, we can just send those back to you. So it just depends on what is the best way. And the student success board, sorry, that Emma mentioned, is without sort of saying that it's going to be sort of reconfigured a bit, so it is the main one. There's the governance is change. So actually, Emma, Sodiq do attend that. So that they can feed that back, but also, you know, I'm on it as well. So if there are sort of some burning big issues, we can make sure that they go through those, because if it involves policy change, it has to go through the governance of the university. But we're really, really happy to support that, and particularly just using the example of the ECs, is that was from feedback from students, so we've made those changes in response.
I think that's it.
Thank you for organising.
I would like to say on behalf of GSU, thank you very much to all the panelists, the AS and the school networking officer. I think you guys really did a great job, and I would like to as well to give them a cheers for the great job you are doing in feedback. So. And also to everyone joining us online, I just want to say a big thank you to you guys as well. Thank you for coming, for taking your time out. So just in case there is any other information or whatever you want to pass across, you can pass it across to GSU through reps@grid.ac.uk. And thank you very much for everyone that attended. Thank you so much.
Thank you.